Yo, what's cracking, folks? Welcome to episode number 9 of The Painter and the Pixie. I am your host, Jeremy Vassar, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely wife, Serena.
Hi, everybody.
And let's see. Oh, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the number one provider of digital audiobooks. They have a whole mess of them in all different categories, and we talk about it on the podcast many times before. You can go to www.audibletrial.com/The Painter and the Pixie to get a free month trial along with a free audiobook credit. And my recommendation this week is in honor of the power outages that have gone all over our area with this recent snowstorm. My recommendation is 1 Second After by William Forstchen. And definitely, it's the first book of a series of 3 books, and they're super good.
They're very, very good. I like them.
Highly recommend them. They're kind of like the post-apocalyptic kind of a thriller. Basically, the power goes out, and then that's where the book picks up. And I talk about it later in the podcast, so listen to that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And in this episode of the podcast, Serena and I are chatting about our experience with the power outage.
Our little snowstorm extravaganza.
Our own version of 1 Second After, which was
not nearly as dramatic.
Much less violent than the book, but we didn't end up eating the dogs or anything. And and then, our recent activities and goings on.
Yeah, some updates about my yoga practice,
stuff.
some fun things.
And just general good times all around.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough of a lead up.
That's good.
Anything else? What were you what were you drinking in your cup
today?
Today?
Since we've been a little bit displaced from our normal routine with our power being out, stopped at Starbucks on the way here and got some little caffeine for the show. And it's just, I love this. My favorite right now is I get 2 shots of espresso with a big giant dollop of steamed heavy cream on top.
Oh,
and then a little sprinkle of cinnamon. It's the best.
That's the move.
Delicious.
Yeah, I got a venti Pike Place with heavy cream. Which nice. I found out from Rogan's podcast this week. It's 470 milligrams of caffeine.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Pretty solid.
Pretty decent.
Yeah,
sometimes I'll add hot water to mine. So, give it a little bit more longer time to drink it.
Dilute
but it's
it
great. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. That sounds good.
Nice.
Coffee's nice. Anyway, I think that's enough about our lead up here.
Yeah.
Get ready for the show.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, without further ado, please enjoy episode number 9 of The Painter and the Pixie.
Number 9. Woohoo!
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Hey, pretty girl. What's up?
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, man.
From my office.
Yeah, so we're coming to you not live from Wise Bear Functional Nutrition headquarters.
Yep.
Because we still do not have power.
Still no power. So if you guys watching on YouTube see we're in a different location.
Yep.
That's why.
That's what's up. So, and you were saying you usually talk to your clients, but you usually sit where I'm sitting?
Yeah, it's funny sitting here. I think it's a nice proximity. It's a little bit more cozy, I think, than our blue chairs that we normally sit in.
It's true.
But it's very, very odd for me looking this direction at you over my right than over my left. Because I normally sit in that seat where you are.
Gotcha.
To talk to my clients. So it's kind of funny. Like role reversal.
There you go. Yeah. Tell me about your nutritional problems. No,
no. That's not what the show's about, man.
So, so we have been without power. When did it go out? Friday?
It started snowing a bunch. I was here with clients, and I left here about 11:30, got home between 11:30 and 11:45. The roads were getting between 10 and 11. It was just like huge amount of snow fell. It's like, okay, I'm just going to not see anybody else for the rest of the afternoon and get home before it gets bad. And power went on and off, flickered on and off here and there. And by 4 o'clock, about 10 times went on and off. And about 4 o'clock, it was done.
Gave up the ghost.
Gave up, didn't come back on.
Yeah, because I was down in Jenkintown working in a gated community, and we were working in a basement, so we didn't really have a lot of windows that we were watching out of, and then we saw flurries coming down, and then I was actually texting with your dad because it was his
Yeah.
shout out to Gene. Happy birthday, Gene.
Happy birthday, Dad.
They got like 18 inches up in the Poconos.
Yeah, a
and,
whole bunch.
And I was like, oh, we might get more than people think because it was hitting them really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up getting quite a bit of snow, but it was heavy, and then the wind was crazy. That's really what took down the power. And so we're recording right now. It's Sunday around 1:00, and we still don't have power.
1:43.
So we spent the first Friday night we spent at our house,
and we just bundled up, and it was chilly.
and that was all right. But then it sucked staying in the house yesterday. We really should have probably left earlier.
Yeah, we should have left earlier. I don't know what we were thinking.
We were playing Magic, the card game, and just like our hands are cold. And then I realized I'm like, I get so pissy when it's cold inside. I'm not a happy camper.
Yeah, that's funny.
When it's cold inside, like even if it's like 55 degrees, because I've had to work in some homes where it's you're inside. So it's technically like temperature controlled, but it's so cold. Like even when you're doing things like with your hair, with your hands, like for instance painting, your hands get super cold, and just like your shoes are cold. It just feet are cold, and I hate that. I hate that like middle range of because you can't like bundle up for painting, and then. But anyway, that was just like a.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly when we woke up. The first night, into Saturday morning.
Yeah,
it was 53 degrees.
Yep.
But it's not terrible. 53 is not horrible. But who knows how cold it got during the night.
Yeah, just inside 55 is different than outside in 55. Because sometimes you get the sun.
Right.
There's air moving. It's just different. So then this past night we skedaddled over to my brother's house, which used to be my old house, and brought back fond memories. I've never slept in that room before because it used to be my brother's room.
Yeah.
But man, it was super nice.
So just nice to like wake up and your face isn't freezing cold.
And have like a normal amount of covers on. Oh, it was wonderful.
I don't mind the covers. I like lots of piles of covers.
Yeah, I was like, man, because I went back to get all this production equipment today, and just realizing how crappy houses are when there's no electricity.
Yeah.
You're like, this house blows.
Yep,
so.
It's different. It's totally different. Our houses these days, though, are not like, sorry, that's loud, are not set up for being without electricity. It's not like we had a fireplace or anything we could just use or set up. I mean, we had candles that we lit the first night, but it's not meant to be used without electricity.
Yeah, it made me be like, okay, I know how I want to set up my house for when we get our own situation. So that's kind of where I'm like, yeah, I think you'd be better having some other contingencies. So because even Josh and Sarah's house, they have a fireplace.
Yep.
So which
your parents have a fireplace.
Yes, they do.
But I don't know if it's usable.
It's usable.
It is?
Yeah. I mean, there's just like candles and stuff in there.
And I thought it was blocked off or something.
You just open up the flue and it's good.
Oh, okay.
But anyway. But yeah, so we got lots of snow. It's all melted now, but there's still no power, and there's quite a few generators around running a lot of the traffic lights, and then there's quite a few in our neighborhood still rumbling right along. But I mean, a lot of the neighborhoods right around us have power because I drove around a little bit.
Are those the ones that have the cables under the ground?
Yeah,
most of them.
But then some of the other ones too across the street have it that have power lines, and so our little section has not been reconnected to the grid.
Yeah.
If you drive through our neighborhood, you can hear all the generators like burn. There's a lot of those. I don't know if they're 2-stroke motors, but they're super loud. So.
Yeah, it's pretty different. You know, we're all so used to having electricity all the time that it's kind of like, you're like, yep, I forgot. And it wasn't terrible. It's not like it wasn't -9 degrees outside with no power. It's just like, okay, a little different than what we're used to. Let's find a way to keep ourselves entertained and keep going. Yeah. I actually felt really bad for some of my clients. On Friday, I have my list. I close my office at 1 with clients, but then I do paperwork after that until we have Friday family dinner.
Right.
Kind of like the Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And I do paperwork and emails, and I had this list of people to email back, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. There's no internet. There's no electricity. I really can't do anything about that at the moment.
Yeah, and like all the stuff I had planned yesterday was all production work, and we film at our house because we got the studio there, and I could run a few of my things off of batteries, but I mean, I'd only get one pass through on the batteries, and then but I didn't have enough lights to backlight the screen or do any of that, and then once you run through one cycle of batteries, you can shoot for maybe 2 hours
Yeah.
with what I have. So I was just like, and we were supposed to do screen capture yesterday, which is definitely
But you
not
kind of need a computer for that.
Yeah, and then all my stuff is, all the paperwork I have to do for clients. I have some invoicing and quotes and stuff I have to do is all on my computer. And I keep kicking myself because when I upgraded and got my company computer, I guess it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
I got a big iMac, which is sweet, but I really wish I had gotten a MacBook Pro.
Laptop,
which will
portable.
be the next jam. But then the problem with that is doing any editing. It's particularly video editing. I need to get
that's rough on a little.
I gotta get a pretty gangster MacBook Pro, which just means they're like north of $3,000, which is. But anyway, so I was just like, if our power doesn't come back on, then I'm gonna need to go grab my computer and probably bring it over to my brother's house.
Yeah, and this place, I don't know if my office had electricity or not. So, but now we know, and I'm like, I was thinking about that. Like, I should have brought my laptop. I could have just worked here.
That's true.
So I might do that. I might catch up on some emails here.
Yeah. So
yeah, electricity is really useful.
It's apparently very. And what was funny is so like what we've been doing is every time we come into our rooms, we'd be like cutting the lights on. You're like, I'm so stupid.
Yeah,
like I keep going to the bathroom, click on the light. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I basically took a huge Rubbermaid container out of my truck and just pulled everything out of the freezer because we had a lot of meat.
Yeah, we have a lot of meat because we usually get meat in bulk. And it's cheaper that way. It's awesome. And we just leave it in the freezer because we have a big stand freezer in our laundry room.
Right.
Which is awesome. And Gus, I just prepped all of his meals for a month. And he is a raw fed dog. So it's all meat that you have to keep frozen. So that's like 30 pounds of meat. That's just Gus's food. Actually, it's about 20 pounds. He eats between 18 and 20 pounds in a month.
Yeah. Okay. How much is he eating a day?
He gets 2 servings now because this food I got particularly this time around has bone ground into it.
Okay.
Normally I do the meat separately and then have bones that he can chew on.
Those
But
are the chicken feet, right?
The chicken feet, yes.
They look hilarious.
It's hilarious when
Tiny
he
little
eats it. I
dog
know,
just
it's
eating a chicken's foot.
Which he loves, and I think it's really good for their teeth to be able to chew and that.
For sure.
But for this time around, I was like, I wanted to just be the cheapest and easiest. I had some potential travel happening, so I was like, let me just make this simple on myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with the bone ground into the picture, it's about 5.5 ounces twice a day. So about 10.5 to 11 ounces of food a day. Do I have that right? I think that's right.
Yeah. Well,
it's about 10 ounces.
Yeah, we'll say you're right. Man, he's Gus is in the room with us, folks. He's over in his work crate, and he is exhausted.
Yeah, he's been having fun with
that little dude is passed out. Yeah, he was out late at the bar last night, and then he was just he's been running around with Henry and Drake.
From Friday, because Henry and Drake came over Friday. We had family dinner by candlelight. That was so fun. Me and Christine made all the food. Yeah, thankfully, we have a gas stove, so we just used our lighter to light the gas stove.
And my parents have like this gas wall unit.
Yeah, that's
that heats up the addition, which is like part of the kitchen. That heats that up nicely.
Yeah. So. While we were cooking and stuff, because, you have the gas burners on, it was about 70 degrees.
That's not bad.
Yeah, which is great.
Super warm.
Considering it was like 40 outside. Probably it was less than that because the storm was still going.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was really nice. Gus ran around a whole lot on Friday, and then he ran around a whole lot on Saturday. Then he ran around today.
Dude, it was Friday, because Friday there was a ton of snow. Oh my gosh. He was running outside, and like I'm used to... The other 3 dogs in our family are Australian Shepherds, and they don't like clump up with snow to the same level that he does. He's got like these curly, very tight curls.
Yeah.
And he looked like he looked like that snow creature from the second Star Wars. Was it The Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
Just like huge. I've never seen a dog covered in so much snow. They like balled. And then he couldn't sit down.
I know. They were all up under his legs, up under his tail, all over his butt. He couldn't sit. He's like trying to sit, and he's like, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that.
We could have had a fairly long snowball fight just with the snow pulled off of him. So you had to go melt him in the...
I did.
In the old dog bath. So
my friend Megan calls them snow tumors. All over this poor dog.
Well, they're like snow dingleberries.
Yeah, they're all over, and all up his arms. It was crazy.
But yeah, so it was very, very. He was like stiff-legged. He's like, I'm you're gonna need to help me. I felt like if I tipped him over, he wouldn't be able to get
Right.
back
Well,
up.
and part of it was there was so much snow that like his arm. What part of his arm is this for people who are not watching?
A tricep.
Tricep was frozen to his lat,
Yeah.
like to his side. He like couldn't move that part of his arm. I had to rinse him down. I just used some mildly warm water from the last of our heated water in the tank and just like ran water so everything melted off of him. He was so happy when he could move around.
He's like, all right. Well, he's literally getting thawed out. So, but yeah, it was funny.
Hysterical. I should have taken a picture. I've never seen that much snowballs on him either.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he just looked like he was wearing like sleeves or something on top of his little dog legs.
It was really funny.
So anyway, we're still sans power, and they projected that we will have. It'll be cut back on by noon today, which it is not because I was just there. And hopefully we'll get it. Maybe when we finish this podcast,
Yeah, maybe.
we'll be all set. But
We'll see.
if
We'll
not,
find out.
we saved the bulk of the meat, and
Yeah.
but we can't like go get groceries today. And then
Pointless.
I don't even think I'll probably make it to yoga. I don't have any clean shorts, so.
Yeah, well, it's pretty late and we're doing this show now, so
Yep.
I don't know if you'll make it over.
But that's okay. We'll just.
I would totally make that a priority if none of our family and friends had power. Go to the hot yoga room.
Right.
It was so nice last night when I went, or yesterday afternoon when I went to the advanced class at 4:00.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, heat. This is great.
Well, I went on Wednesday, and the Courtney teaches, and she's like, I feel like she's kind of like one of the coaches for these girls that are doing the competition stuff, because she got certified as like a judge as well, and she actually had the two girls that are competing do their routines at the end of class. So she kind of wrapped us up a little bit early, and then they have, and I was watching it's got to be less than 3 minutes. And then I was asking her after class, like, what is the deal? Like, how do you put together one of those routines? What are the rules and stuff? And it's sub 3 minutes, and there's a sequence, but you can kind of, it's like a la carte. You can kind of choose different like poses that are like, so they have like 4, you can pick one from that, and then the next section is like another set of poses you can
So
pick
it's
from.
like posture types, like back bends
Yep.
or balancing postures or strength postures or
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then they have to get the counts right in their head, because you cannot go over, it's a big deal to go over 3 minutes.
yeah.
And so they were, trying to keep it in their head, and there's no music or anything to like keep the rhythm, which is weird to just, do all that stuff in silence.
that's
But
true.
Bikram is always silent, but I don't think that the competition is specifically that type of yoga. I think it's just,
Really?
I'm not sure.
It's Yoga USA.
Is that Bikram?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's
don't
just,
know.
yeah. But anyway, so they did their thing, and I was like, oh, I think that's something that you could, work towards. And this was asking Courtney when the next thing is, and it's basically like this time next year. So that's kind of, I was like, hey, Serena, like,
Well,
maybe
and
you should
it was
do that.
great. It was awesome. Actually, I talked to Courtney about it yesterday. I was like, I think that was yesterday. No, it was the day before yesterday.
Yeah,
No, I don't know. One of the days.
it's probably Saturday, because you talked to her yesterday a lot.
No, I think it was Wednesday.
Anyway,
One at Thursday. It
You
was
went-
Thursday.
it was Thursday. There you go.
Thursday. Oh my goodness. So, I talked to her about what that would look like, and she's like coming 3 to 4 times per week, and really getting hardcore in like September.
Right.
September to January when you have to do your videos, and then competition, I guess, is March-ish,
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah, I
it is
believe
like
it's
this year.
It's usually like March or April. So then you
So
go.
I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to give it a try because I love yoga. It's so funny to me to think about a yoga competition, because it's always been, when you practice, it's always like, be the best you, don't compare yourself to other people. You're here, you're better than you were yesterday, these things. But you can also, you're comparing yourself to yourself still. From what I understand with the judgment of this competition is, it's not who is the most flexible
Right.
and who can do the most crazy things. It's who's doing it the most precisely.
Right.
So like having the proper muscles being used, proper alignment, proper counts, proper setup, not cutting corners. That's what kind of matters the most. You don't have to be you don't have to be in the deepest posture possible, as long as you're doing everything correctly. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different way to do that.
But it's still, I think competition is something that definitely like sharpens your skills, because it kind of calls you on your BS. If you're
Right.
going to have to go up and do it in front of a panel of judges, you're going to care way more in the lead up to that than if you didn't. So But there are advantages and disadvantages of competition. I mean, with yoga, I feel like I don't think the risk of injury is particularly high in competition versus like a lot of other sports where when you go like jujitsu in a competition, the propensity for injury is like
much higher,
which I'm like,
yoga, you could just like fall.
You could fall or strain something.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to Molly last night, seeing like what the, I always like hearing what the injuries are in the sport because no one ever talks about that piece of it. Because I've been asking a lot of instructors like if they've ever seen someone throw up in class because I just find that really amusing. Like, because it's like, why not? I'm sure people have spewed.
Yeah.
Turns out they have. So.
Yep. I'm sure.
Yeah, I like the less talked about parts of athletics sometimes too.
So you were asking Molly about injuries?
Oh yeah, she said like they pop ribs and stuff. That's kind of like pop like a floating rib.
Yeah.
I always have it where we do the stand. It's not standing head to knee. It's the one that's the it's head to knee, but when you're in the triangle, like.
Okay, so triangle.
It's not.
Oh, Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's the one after the master pose of triangle.
Not triangle.
Yeah, it's the one right after that.
It's a version of pyramid. The way that I've always known it is pyramid pose, but it's slightly different in Bikram. So I think it's forward head to knee, maybe. I don't remember what they call it, but
something like that. But
recall.
Anyway, my rib will lock up.
Wow.
And then when I come up, it like holds, and I have to like press it in, and then it releases, and I'm like, and I'm good. All right.
Wow, I've never had anything like that.
What was funny is that we've had a few guest instructors sometimes that'll hold you in a little longer, and then the lady next to me, her rib locked up the same way.
Oh no!
And we were both like
wow.
afterwards. But so interesting stuff.
Yeah, very interesting.
But anyway, so I thought that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think I'm going to work towards that. I like the goal. I was saying this the other day. I kind of need a carrot at the end of the stick. I love yoga and I'll do yoga, but sometimes I get lazy and I'm like, man, I'm busy. Or not that I'm necessarily lazy, but I will take a different opportunity when it presents itself. So for example, last week, Monday, I saw 2 clients instead of going to yoga because they're like, we can't get it on another day. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll just come in. But if you prioritize, if you say, I've got a competition, then you say, okay, well, you can't come in on Monday, so how about next Monday or at a different, you find a different time, not just what's most of the time I do what's most convenient for my clients. It's fine. Right. If I'm around, if I'm available, I don't mind. Yeah. But if you've got a big goal that you're working towards, like yoga competition, and I'm not really in yoga competition shape at the moment, working on it. So that's going to keep me moving in the right direction, I think.
Well, it's contextualizing it. Right. And then calling you on your bullshit. So, and that's just the reality of pretty much everything. Like if there's no consequences for not doing it, then, and it's particularly if you haven't built it up as a really like tried and true habit, then it makes it easier to prioritize because there's a consequence to you looking stupid. Right. Or like not doing well. But you're working on, you have seen Adrienne and you're doing strength and conditioning now kind of like geared towards the yoga, which I think will like, you have so much flexibility because you're so bendy. I feel like adding the strength and conditioning will get you.
I hope so.
It'll move you along really quickly. So
yeah, we did at the advanced class or the intermediate class on Saturday. We were doing camel. When you go back, and I went back, it was fine, but then I like fell out of it because I couldn't hold myself up. So like the back flexibility is totally there. My floor bow is awesome. I've been doing really well with floor bow recently, which is back bend. You're laying with your stomach on the ground. You pull your feet up above your head like this.
Yeah. Well, and floor bow for people not watching, which is almost everyone. You lay on your stomach and then you reach back behind you with both your hands and grip
the outsides of your feet, thumbs going kind of on the
and then you kind of press into your hands with your feet, and then that kind of arches you up into so you have the tension.
You almost look
bow.
like a teardrop. Yeah. First, but then when you do full bow, you hold it and you kind of hold your big toes and you pull out to the side a little bit. And I can do that really well because it doesn't really have to do with a lot of core strength. It's leg strength. Right. A little bit of core strength, and it's mostly just flexibility for me anyway. I don't know if that's true for everybody. For whatever reason, I've got those muscles and not camel muscles.
Yeah, I'm my hip locked up on me on Wednesday's class, and I think we were doing a standing bow, which standing bow for everyone listening at home is so if you're doing it on your right leg, you're standing with your left leg locked. and then you drop your hand down and pick
Mm-hmm.
up your right leg, like your
Your
right
foot from the inside.
and then your left arm goes straight up and you tip forward as you're kicking into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very, just look it up if you want to see
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
it's the like
It's like standing up and making the rest of you look like a teardrop on one leg.
yeah, it's like the one of the quintessential kind of
Yeah.
yoga moves. I'd say that and standing triangle are like the kind of two of those master poses or whatever. But
That
anyway,
people are recognizable, but so that's yeah.
my right hip locked up and I just had to like drop into a squat real quick. I was like, right. So,
Okay.
but it's all good.
Yeah, so all of that to say, I think my strength training will be really useful. And it's not that I don't have strength, it's just that certain areas are much more developed than others. And it's a matter of kind of like retraining certain patterns, I think.
Yeah.
Like for my one hip, my right hip, I did not realize for a long time. I mean, I kind of did because I knew my right knee was messed up. We talked about this in one of our injury episodes.
Yeah.
But my right hip points outward a little bit. So it's just very open and my left is straightforward like it should be. So I've been doing tiny little bits of exercises to track my foot straight forward instead of out to the right. And I can feel it. It makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
a huge difference.
Yeah, I had to
But
do
even already, only for the 2 weeks I've been doing that, my standing bow with my right leg as my planted leg, my left leg up, was so much better on Saturday.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yoga is always really nice, at least for me, to like, it always lets me know where I'm injured and where I'm tight and what I need to work on in my mobility stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I always, I'm like, I'm not even getting close to that. So,
Yeah.
but it was fun. When I was talking to Courtney, she's like, oh, are you thinking about doing competition? I'm like,
Really?
no.
You should.
I don't have I'm
That's funny.
trying to stay focused on jujitsu this year.
Yeah, that's true.
So
You shouldn't. That's not quite your thing.
my,
Maybe
my,
later.
my context is getting that purple belt right now. So
True.
That's where I'm
Do that first.
putting that. And I mean, I would be, I just suck at yoga. So
You're just not very flexible, but if
Yeah,
you're very precise, and that's what matters.
it's really my hips.
Form before depth.
I can't get my hips to open. So I still have a lot of mobility work to do there. And I think it's a combination of my psoas and my hips. So, but they get pretty aggressively used in jujitsu. And then I really do think it's the psoas because I think that clamps down on my lower back and then tightens up everything around the hips. And I can feel it when I eat shitty too. Man, it like everything tightens up. It was after one of those weekends we had where we went off the rails a little bit. And then I did yoga and I was like, I am so stiff. I had zero.
Wow.
It might have been last Sunday. I just felt so inflamed. I like could barely, my joints were like, you're going to be right about here. So,
Can't do
but it was more because I was dehydrated because it was just a lot of coffee, not a lot of liquids, so on and so forth. But yeah, good times.
So I'm
all
doing
around.
some strength and conditioning for yoga, which I think is great. That's where I was just talking to Sarah about this earlier today. Some of my fitness goals is I just want to be physically fit. I want people, like, I'm not terribly out of shape, but I want people to look at me and be like, yep, she knows what she's talking about,
Yeah.
Like, they know that when they hear me talk about nutrition, but I want to like look the part also.
Right.
With more than just yoga skills, because a lot of yoga is long and stretchy, but you don't like look very muscular. Right. So I kind of want to develop have a balance between the two.
Yeah.
But some of my goals are to do, I think, did we talk about this last time? Zombie press, scorpion. I'll link pictures of this in the show notes so people can see what I'm talking about for all these things we talk about. But I think that's super fun. That's like, Sarah said to me, she's like, those are some really specific goals. And I was like, yeah, you need something that you were aiming for. When you achieve it, you know you've achieved it.
Right. And I think that's really important to have definitive, particularly for like exercise goals, or if you want to describe it like that. And that's something I've been thinking a lot more about with like I'm doing this challenge with my brother this month. So it's super easy right now because there's the 100 extra reps. It's going to suck more when it gets into like the 400 rep range, and you're going to do 400 extra reps of something every day. So, but yeah, I've got a few other things I want to work on, but so that was the goal for this month, is to do this rep challenge where I think I described it last week's episode.
I wrote it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's fine. So that to me is easy peasy. But we were talking a little bit about our getting sexy by summer situation. And so mine is May 31st
Okay.
I've got to weigh in.
Oh, you're announcing this publicly?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I found out that with challenges with you and I, if I don't say it on the
Yeah.
podcast, I don't. I'm like,
Not enough motivation to continue.
we'll talk about it. I'm like, did we say it on the podcast? You're like, no. I'm like, yeah, that. Like, that's,
We have had no public commitment.
yeah. No
We're
one
gonna
else
change
knows
the
about
rules.
this. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So publicly, what are you committing to right now? What's your goal, man?
Sub 205
By when?
So it'd be May 31st.
All right.
So we'll work out the deets of like when weigh-in would be. I would probably say it's got to be, I've got to weigh in sometime on May 31st. I think that's, so it would be like midnight by midnight, if that's what it takes. So, and my thing is going to be.
So if you're not there, you're just going to go sit in the sauna for 4 hours.
Sub 205.
Don't do that, people. It's
Or
terrible idea.
10% body fat.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good.
Which I think it's probably, I was talking to some of my buddies at the gym, and they were like, yo, I think it's probably easier to get sub 205 than it is to get 10%. I was like, yeah, well, that's why I'm like.
Yeah, 10% is going to be tough.
Particularly for I'm not someone who's like naturally lean.
Yeah.
My brother gets way leaner than I. He was always just like a skinnier kid, and I was the chunkier kid. So, with relatively the same diet. But yeah, sub 205, I'm fine because I could cut weight. Like I'm probably like I'm like 218 right now, somewhere in there, and I could cut that weight like easily in a week, for sure in a week.
That's terrible.
But if I really needed to, I could talk to some of my fighter friends and cut.
No,
cut
don't do
weight
that.
like
The goal is not to cut weight. The goal is so that you can sustainably reach where you want to be.
Well, what I want is, because that's 3 months away. We have March, April, May.
Yeah.
And what I want is a gradual decline in that. And see, we had a lot of really strict dietary things that we did in like January. So I would rather just have an overarching, like, basically a goal that supersedes any dietary things that are like, you know, if you eat high glycemic carbohydrates, if you know, have an unbalanced diet, if you're not hydrated, if you're drinking too much, all those things, you're not going to get to this goal.
Right.
And then I've got to work out with my brother. I've got to work out a suitable punishment if I don't reach that weight goal. So I figured out a good meal.
Yeah, what's
so if
the good meal?
If he doesn't do this rep challenge, then we each get to, the other person.
If he fails, challenge.
I get to pick a dinner and a movie that he has to go eat and then watch. So I'm going to find the worst movie available, and hopefully the longest. That's the best.
So you can kill more time.
But yeah, so I think my meal is going to be, he's got to get a lobster at Red Lobster because he can do takeout, and there's one pretty close to his house. And Josh is super squeamish about that kind of stuff. I think he would gag. And it's not a knock on anybody that likes lobster. It's just not my brother's.
He's a bit picky with his
He's
foods.
more like pizza and burgers kind of a fella.
Yeah.
So very straight up and down.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even know. Does he even like sweet potatoes?
Eh.
Yeah, he's a little bit choosy about those types of things.
Yeah.
So that would be hysterical.
But anyway, that's my kind of mark I would like to get to. Because I'd actually like to get back into running as well.
Really?
So
You've said that for a little while now.
I get the itch, man. Whenever it gets warm out, I love running in the heat. And I ran all year round. I did winter track in high school. And,
and even after high school, Peace Valley, you ran a ton.
Yeah, I ran a lot. So, and then obviously training for that ultra marathon, I ran a lot.
Yeah, like 5 hours at a time.
Which would kill your whole Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry.
But I'd basically drive up to Trexler and run for 5 hours and then come back, and that was my Saturday. And then sit in the Epsom soak or sit in a bathtub full of salt. But yeah, my brother and I were chatting the other day about, like, we have a really limited reaction to when people get injured in front of us because I've seen so many people get injured. So we were on the job site this week, and one of the carpenters was using a table saw.
Oh my gosh.
And it bucked the wood and shot it like a rocket into his ribs. Ew. And dude, he went down hard. He was like,
you're not prepared for that.
And I mean it clocked him good. It was probably
it probably bruised him.
It was probably the equivalent of getting like shin kicked in the ribs
by someone who's good at shin kicking.
Yeah. And we were like, yo, Dan, let me see it. Like, he lifted up his shirt. We saw, like, he had a big welt there. We're like, you'll be fine. Nothing to crack. You're good. But we have, like, very little empathy/sympathy. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. You just see guys get, like, banged up all the time in, like, the fight gym because injuries are so prominent. You're just like, if you're not like dead or something didn't tear, you're like, you're good.
Right.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
just bleeding. It's no big deal.
Well, some of the funniest ones were guys would get hit in the liver. So like if you get tagged in the liver, and this was almost always in Muay Thai, so they call it a liver shot, but it would just when the liver gets hit with a certain amount of velocity, it just overpowers the whole body, and you just shut down, and you shut down from like your stomach. You just can't breathe, and it's usually on like a delayed reaction. So you get hit, and then you still stand, and then you just hear the guys go, and then you. And then you curl into a fetal position and just rock, and everybody knows because almost everyone's gotten hit if they've sparred like in the liver. But anyway, that's what that looked like when he got hit.
Was it on his liver? Like
it was close. It was pretty close.
Wow.
He made similar sounds. So
I bet.
that's what we were both reminded of.
Fun.
We're like, you just walk it off. You're fine. So, and then I had a funny thing happened to me when I went back to our house to get all of this production equipment. Actually took me back to the days of Jeremy Unsolicited,
Yes.
where I would go
Pack up and leave.
I used to do this all mobile, so I'd be going into people's homes or offices or whatever.
Yeah.
And just came to your office.
Yep.
But
Not too shabby.
so we don't have any production lights up right now because it's actually really bright in here, which is
Nice.
fine. But I've been looking for my little lights from Aperture have these covers that go on top of them, and they're either daylight covers, like filters, so it's supposed to replicate the sun, and then they have tungsten. The tungsten ones are the orangey, yellowy ones, and I have not been able to find. I was missing one of the tungsten ones.
Oh.
And I was like, man, did I throw this away because I didn't think I would use it? Because I really like that lighting better. It just is a little bit warmer tone. And I've been looking for it for my second small little light. And then I've been looking for it for like 2-3 months.
A long time.
And then I actually found it
Oh my gosh.
because we'd moved so much
Wow.
stuff from the power being out. I was
Yeah.
like, yes.
Awesome.
I was very pumped. And I was just thinking like how
Very cool.
how seldom I get excited about things. And I was thinking about it as like, as you become an adult, it seems like it's less okay to get excited about stuff. Because if you get really animated about it, it's like, oh, they're like a little kid. That's how everyone describes it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
almost like a cultural thing of like, the older you get, the less excited you should be about
You
things.
should be more controlled.
Right? But I'm like, man, I miss getting like super pumped about stuff. As like
I don't mind.
a kid. Yeah.
I get pumped about stuff.
You do. Well,
People
that's-
always say I'm like a cartoon character.
You are like a cartoon character. Well, I think your expressions are very,
Yeah.
expressive. I guess.
My expressions
Your expressions are expressive. That's probably not a good
Be
sentence.
precise in your speech.
It's precise enough. People get what I'm saying.
It is.
Yeah, they get it from the context and the tone. So, but yeah, I was thinking about that, like how I've heard a lot of comedians have similar, like their reaction level to something is not as high. Like I remember getting so pumped for like movies to come out or
Yeah.
video games, and I don't know if it's just because there's so much content out
Maybe.
that it's almost like, oh, cool, yeah, all right.
There's another thing.
Yeah, it's another thing.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you had any, because you get excited about stuff.
I do get excited about stuff.
But it's not usually big stuff. It's like little things.
Yeah,
usually.
but sometimes that's the best.
That's true. I just get excited about like puppies and stuff. That's not something to get excited about because then you just end up with a bunch of dogs.
True, or
So.
just like a cute one who's still sleeping in his crate, by
Dude,
the way.
he is still out. Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that he would come over and be in the camera with us, but he's just.
I'm sure you can call him over towards the
No,
end of the
it's okay.
show.
That's all right.
Um,
But yeah, no, I get pretty excited about little things all the time, and I think you want to have a positive attitude, and it's totally fine to be excited about stuff. There's nothing wrong with it.
yeah. But I do think there is a cultural expectation. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you, because kids can go bananas and it's like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
you see them go nuts. And then if you're a little too excited as an adult, people are like,
What's wrong with you?
like you need to settle
You're
down.
special.
Yeah. You need to settle down.
Yeah.
But I was very excited to find
great.
that little,
That's
the
awesome.
little cover. Cause I was like, man, I don't even know if I can order another one of those. Cause it's this weird piece that only
Oh wow, you
comes
thought
with the
about
lights.
this a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to like replace. So it'd be like, replacing like this clamp or something.
Yeah.
You're like, how am I going to find that?
Yeah.
So, but
Challenging.
anyway, that's That was
Well, that's cool. That's nice that you found it.
I was just happy I didn't have to hunt it back down again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I've been thinking a lot about this week is I don't watch the news because it's terrible.
Yep.
And there's a good comedian that said it should just be called bad news.
Right. Not the news, just bad news.
And cool, and there was another comedian that was saying, this is a really old joke, and he'd be like, "Hey, watch the news. I just heard there's rape and fire and murder, and I go outside, the birds are chirping, the sun's out." He's like, "Where's this all going on?" So it's like, particularly, we have access to all this information from all over the world.
Yeah.
And there's close to 8 billion people on this planet. So there's a lot of news that you can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
So like that doesn't really, for lack of a better phrasing, it doesn't really affect you that much.
Just moving.
And that's, but it's weird just how they try and keep your attention and just
Oh, yeah.
particularly like not watching TV and then being around a few homes that watch TV, because I don't even watch commercials. It's like bad news and then selling me drugs.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, there's okay. But a kind of like a buzzword that's been going around a lot right now or the last couple of years has been tribes, and they call them like tribalism. And there's been a whole gang of books. There's one by same dude, Sebastian Junger. He was a war journalist. He wrote a book called War. He also did the documentary called Restrepo, which is very famous. It was a fire-based Restrepo, which was in Afghanistan, which is crazy, just crazy documentary. And War was the book that went along with it. And then he's been on Joe Rogan a bunch of times, and he wrote a new book called Tribes. And then it's weird because there's another book called Sapiens where they talk about the kind of the evolution of tribes and why we are a certain way. And like, are you familiar with Dunbar's number? That's the whole thing where you can only keep about 150 people in your head. And the theory on that is that you with like faces and names, we're really, as humans developed, we got they hit this equilibrium of being in groups of around 150. So beyond that, you kind of start losing track of people.
Yeah.
And now you have access to thousands and millions of people. So it's a little bit harder to do that. But the whole thing about the tribe thing is that you will associate with a cluster of people and identify yourself with that group. Now, I went to public school. You were homeschooled for the bulk of your schooling career. Did you ever feel like part of a clique or something? Because I have like my own theory on some stuff.
In college, yes.
Okay.
But not being homeschooled. I mean, yeah, my twin.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which is for good reason. She looks just like you. So particularly growing, you guys are identical. But
yeah, so that, I mean, there was that connection, my family, but like, that's it. I was not, it's not like you have hundreds of people to form cliques with.
Right. Yeah, especially up in the Poconos. Well, because one of the
We
things...
had some friends and we all did stuff together, so I don't know.
Yes.
Counts. College was a little bit different because you have all these different groups of people and it's much more diverse and you kind of sink into different groups.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think it's a vaster thing because as well, where Josh and I never really went like whole hog into a group, where it didn't like intuitively make sense to me. Like in school particularly, I mean, I think after elementary school, people get really cliquey. So it's like that middle school, so 7th through 12th grade, is where people really kind of segment off. And I was a floater. Like I had friends, I had like pockets of friends in each group. So I had like nerd friends, jock friends, I had football friends, lacrosse friends, but everyone they're like, no, my group's the best. No, my group's the best. And then my whole thing, and I think this extrapolates well out to larger groups like Republicans and Democrats, where people want to be associated with that thing.
Them versus us.
Yeah, it's a very polarizing thing. And I heard it put really like a lot, it was a well thought out presentation of we're kind of, it's very unlikely we're going to get rid of tribalism. What you want is to have tribes that interact well with each other. So And when they're so polarized, they want to murder each other.
Yeah.
That's not good. But what's always been bizarre to me is that when people will stand up and say, like, this is my people, they're awesome, it doesn't matter, like, we'll pick one that's kind of less charged,
Okay.
like dog people and cat people.
Okay.
It's like, no, dogs are awesome, cats are awesome. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, great. But like, some dogs are assholes and some cats are assholes.
Yeah.
So, like, just don't pretend that those don't exist.
Right.
Because that was always my thought when I was in school, is that, say, like, there was a clique of 12 people, let's go 10
Okay.
people. There was at least one asshole in that group.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm not associated with that entire group. I only like the handful of them, but that one guy I can't stand. So I'm not, like, all the way in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just,
Well, so for you, your version of like the tribe is kind of individual basis. It's not like because you can't you're saying that you can't make a big blanket statement over the entire group when
Right.
not everybody fits the criteria of that group well.
right. And it's you see that pattern emerge over and over again where people aren't taking things on a case-by-case basis. It's because it's a lot, it takes a lot more nuanced approach. It's a lot more, it's energy inefficient to not stereotype. Do you know what I mean?
Right. You want to be able to group people off so you can kind of like close that ticket in your brain.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I dream of a world where we can make fun of each other solely based on our lack or, like, actual accomplishments. So,
Yeah.
like, if you're a jackass, it's just purely because you're a jackass, not
Right.
because you're a part of or perceived to be a part of any group. So that's what I hope for.
Yeah, right. But I feel like, I mean, the whole tribalism thing, all of the components there we've talked about a little bit over the week. I don't think it's ever going to go away because even small bits, you find us versus them. You can always find an us versus them somewhere mentality. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be dangerous, not like we should kill them because they're not us. But like people often, and no matter what it is, you can find something that you kind of, it resonates with you, but then you see it's something else. Like even, what was that in Jordan Peterson's book? He was talking about this example. People who were more perceptive and less perceptive or something like that of emotions. They talked about emotional cues or something. And then they were polarized right there. And they made one little comment about being a little bit more perceptive than this person to, 10 people here, 10 people here. And then they kind of grouped off, right? They were like, okay, these are my people. Those are not my people.
Right.
It's even little things.
Yeah, maybe it's just my judgmental nature, but I was always like, I knew the people that I liked and I knew the people I didn't like. And it was like, oh, so you're friends with all those people? And I always felt compelled to be like, no, just this guy and not those guys. But because it gets tribal like that. It used to be way worse in like martial arts school. Any like martial arts, like karate or taekwondo, because everybody thought their thing was the best thing.
Right.
And they were very particular about you only train at one fight gym. And we were on like the tail end of that. So when I started doing martial arts like 11, 12 years ago, my Muay Thai gym was very much like that. It was Muay Thai is the best thing. You don't train anywhere else. And then I went and saw some of my friends fight and they got taken down to the ground and choked unconscious. And I was like, I turned to Josh. I was like, yo, what was that? And he's like, I think that was jiu-jitsu. I'm like, we need to learn that shit. So we like kind of covertly for, I was about 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
We trained at our Muay Thai school and then trained at a jiu-jitsu school. And neither of them knew that we were I mean, some guys figured it out, but it was just like, I'm not saying like, I want to learn all the stuff. And like a lot of people, it's like kind of one of Jordan Peterson's rules of like, assume that the person you're talking to has something to
know something you don't.
Know something that you don't. And that's like, through the UFC and stuff, it's really come to light that, the dominant fighting arts are jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, and boxing. Those are kind of the four that get integrated to various degrees, and you kind of need a base in at least all of those to compete at a high level. Or you need to be a specialist, a super high specialist in one of them. You see a few guys from like point karate and taekwondo coming over, but they all have to have elements of the other ones in there. So there's less of like this secretive,
Right, there's
my
less-
sensei is the best kind of a thing, because it's like if they haven't performed in the ring, it probably doesn't work very well. So
Yeah, but going back to what you said about tribalism earlier, getting kind of, I think I'm tying this in together, what you're saying here. It's not always bad to have tribalism. You want people to have kind of a sense of obligation, duty, care towards another group of people.
right.
But you want that to be more, not universal, but more widespread, so that the idea is like everybody's doing things to help each other out instead of I'm just going to kill this person because they're not in my tribe.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a little more friendly dialogue betwixt the tribes.
Or like healthy competition.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I only, if I had tribalism, it only ever extended out to my immediate family. I'm talking like nuclear family. It was Josh, mom, dad. That was it for a while. I'm like, that's the only thing that I would definitively say is that I'm a Vassar. That was like, everything else was like kind of debatable. Yeah. But I guess that is kind of weird. I think this is probably the first time I've been like, oh yeah, I'm a painter doing like the show, The Painter and the Pixie. I've never really like self-identified as a painter.
That's your tribe.
There's not really a tribe of painters because everyone's independent. It's not like, oh, we've had the same experience. I don't know. It's not...
Hey, the NTA, Nutritional Therapy Association, all of us graduates, NTPs, NTCs, which is Nutritional Therapy Practitioner or Nutritional Therapy Consultants, they always tag my tribe, this is our tribe, and they're very much building a very big tribe mentality of like, we're all in this together to help each other and help the world. One of their core values is like, let's heal the world, and you want to be like a giant tribe across the whole world.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very popular phrase, trendy phrase right now.
Yeah, as long as your tribe is not trying to rise up and slay all the other tribes,
right?
Then I'm on board. But just know there are probably jackasses within your tribe, and maybe like police them. And if you don't think so, like I've definitely been the jackass in the tribe, so I get it.
There's always going to be that.
Yeah, but it's weird that because I feel like the people that are talking the most are not necessarily like the most even-keeled folks. It feels like people on the polar ends of things are talking the loudest, and like most people fall somewhere in the middle, but they're not saying very much. So I don't know, it's just an observation I've been kind of mulling over this week as I've been listening to like some political commentary and all these podcasts and stuff, because they make it seem like some of these points being made are like what everybody thinks. I'm like, I haven't talked to one person that believes that. Not one. I've heard them on a podcast, never met one.
Yeah.
Like people publicly debating the flat earth people. I'm like, is that a real person? Does that someone actually believe that? I
think some people do, Jerry.
I would assume so, but they're, it's bizarre. I'm like, I would just love to know the percentage. That would be a super convenient.
Probably not a large percent.
It would be a very convenient fact to have. Like what percentage of people believe the idea being put forth? It'd be like 0.5% of the population. You're like, oh, well, we can just forget that. Like that's
it's not worth arguing about. That's where sometimes I see some of these cliques, these tribal connection people, like really argue some points, and we have to win, we have to be right, and you're like, nobody else really cares. Like totally believe what you want to believe. No one's going to be punishing you for those beliefs. It's totally okay.
It's one of those things where are you harming yourself or are you harming others by this set of beliefs? So if but anyway, I don't want to go too much more into those waters.
Not too much details, but the last thing I'll say about that is recap what I just said. Like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like nobody else cares. Sometimes that's okay.
Well, that was a phrase. Like tell someone who cares.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that go around in your circles?
No.
That was a big phrase. Like tell someone who cares. You'd like say that to your friends.
Be like, talk to the hand.
Talk to the hand was one. Yeah, but because what we would do to our friends is like they'd be talking to me like, oh yeah, cool. No, yeah, tell someone who cares. Like that would be the whole thing.
I get the context.
Yeah, it was a very juvenile thing that people would say to each other growing up. It wasn't.
Yeah, and it's not that that's like what I'm saying is it's not like people don't care because they're like mean about it. It's just like it doesn't affect me. You can do stuff. You can believe things. Whatever. You can totally believe the world is flat. You don't have to like be mad at me for not believing the same thing. Yeah.
It just gets sticky when those beliefs start influencing your behavior and then doing it in a weird way.
Yeah.
But anyway, The percentage of who believes it would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fun, like, active stat to have
Yeah.
with some of these debates. But anyway, I'm just
We could start an Instagram poll on our stories. Who believes the Earth is flat?
no, dude, I do not want any of those folks
Okay,
coming
won't
into
do
my
that.
social media. There's a bunch of wackadoos.
Yeah, that's
That's
true. And look, we shouldn't be making fun of these people, whoever they
I will
are,
make
you
fun
know?
of them all day long. That's just insanely stupid. So
But they're entitled to their beliefs.
No, they're
They
not.
Yeah, they are. They can believe what they want.
they can believe, but here's the difference: you're entitled to your beliefs. I don't have to respect your beliefs.
You don't have to agree with them, right?
I don't have to
Absolutely.
agree with them, or you can acknowledge that someone believes something
Mm-hmm.
insane. You don't have to, like, respecting it means that I believe that it has, like, some point of validity, like where I can acknowledge that you have those beliefs. I don't have to respect them if they're crazy. So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Sure, I still think I think you can still respect somebody's belief and not agree with it and not condone it as like true. You can respect them and say, I completely respect the fact that you believe this is absolutely true.
I think they
But I
should
don't
be.
have to agree with it.
I think they should be relentlessly mocked, which is where comedians come in,
Yeah. Okay.
and that's how you bring it. That's what you do
And
in
I
public
can
school.
respect that belief of yours. It's totally fine.
If you believe some crazy stuff,
Yeah.
you need to get made fun of enough to not believe that shit.
As long as it's not like hurting yourself or anybody else.
Yeah.
If it gets to be a little crazy off the rails, then maybe let's like do something about it.
Yeah. Well, if they start informing policy,
Yeah.
and but it's just, dude, people love conspiracy theories. That's a whole deal. So, but it's like
I think my theory about conspiracy theories is people really, really want there to be. It's almost like a deity mentality, a god mentality. They want something bigger than themselves to explain the world.
yeah,
That's like my theory. I've thought about this recently. I don't remember who I was talking to, but conspiracy theories, because there's a bigger picture.
yeah,
It's not just like, wow, this random thing happened. There's like the government is not listening to every single person's conversation and nitpicking what they're saying and going and like, do you know what I mean? There's not a huge overarching person, one stage manager of the country who's like, we're going to really screw up that guy's day. Like,
What-
I don't think that's happening.
Well, what's funny to me, and I just heard this on a podcast this past week, but basically the point was a lot of conspiracy theorists believe that you've got the Rothschilds, you've got these,
Yeah.
there's basically, some of it is there's a cabal of very, very wealthy, powerful
Yeah.
folks at the top that are pulling everybody's strings like marionettes. So
Yeah.
they're like, they have all these grand plans and they're masking things over and there's cover-ups
Right.
and they have this grand design for global whatever. But like the government's so inept they can't repair potholes.
Mhm.
So it's like
Right.
so they like simultaneously believe the government is completely inept and also controlling every piece of their life.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's not, it's a lot of people just doing
Yeah, just doing things like some people have gained huge status and huge money.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't think, my opinion, which I'm entitled to, no one else has to believe this, that I don't think that anyone's sitting there in their room saying, I'm going to take over the entire world by doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, it may be. Some people are crazy, like Hitler, something similar,
Well,
right? Like
there
taking over the world. People have done these things.
There have been people that have tried to take over
Yeah.
the world. That's a legit
Yeah.
thing. But as
But
far
those people are pretty overt about that kind of stuff. They're not like totally covert.
no, it's pretty obvious when they start,
Subliminal.
shaking and baking.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, he was serious, so we should probably stop him.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been legit conspiracies and
Right.
cover-ups
Right,
and things,
which
but
is- yeah.
it's not to the extent where it's the same thing with tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
You're when you say like I'm trying to find one that wouldn't piss everybody off, but very rarely if you say like, okay, so I do jujitsu. If I just said, well, jujitsu guys do this. There's so many people that do jujitsu. You cannot put a blanket
Right.
statement on
Right.
everybody. That's always cracks me up too when people reference Christians. If you say like, "Oh, are you a Christian?" It's like, okay, first off, there are I don't even know how many different like sects of Christians.
Yeah.
There's like
Denominations.
Lutheran denominations. Like there's Lutheran, there's Episcopalian, there's Presbyterian, there's Catholic, and they're people pretend there's all like just one
Yeah.
thing, and it's like something that has a unified approach to everything. It's like, no, barely anyone agrees.
Yeah.
So
Right. It's very difficult to make big blanket statements. The only thing I can think of for jujitsu, people who practice jujitsu. Like that's pretty much the only safe blanket statement.
that's about it. But I mean, there's no gi guys. There's gi guys. There's guys that like leg locks. There's guys that don't do leg locks. There's, there's all different styles and approaches and wrestling heavy guys. And then there's more like guys that drop to guard. So it's like there's there's
Right.
so many
You
nuanced
can't put
approaches.
everybody in one boat.
Yeah.
You can't.
So, but I get why. I just want people to be kinder to each other.
Yeah.
That's really, my because I think that's, and not being nice, being actually kind.
Right.
Kind is a little bit different. So you're just a little more.
Yeah, you can be nice to
subtlety.
someone and still like not like them and be really like spiteful underneath of all of that.
Right.
But being kind is genuine.
Yeah.
And caring, and you want the best for somebody in that, and in that scenario. So kindness is definitely different than niceness.
Agreed. So yeah, be kind, folks.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for.
Mhm.
I have a couple other points. Do you have anything you want to cover today?
What are your points?
I was just going to talk about because we lost power, and I've just been thinking about my brother and I were talking about 1 second after.
Oh yeah, that's true. I thought about that, so I'm gonna piggyback in front of this.
Okay.
Before you go along, I thought about that book. You'll talk about it in a minute, but I kept thinking about it when the power was going on and off on Friday. It was flicking on and off, and I was like, I had wrote up my list of things to get done for the day on my whiteboard, and one of them was take a nice hot bath. That was supposed to be my reward for finishing all of my tasks, but I was like, this power keeps coming on and off. I'm gonna do this first or second so that I can make sure it gets done. So we have heat, we have lights. I'm not just in the dark
Yeah.
bathtub.
Yeah.
And then the power went out, and I was like, yep, I wonder how long this is going to be out. And then you start wondering in the back of your head, are we in a book now? What's happening? Are we in this storyline?
Yeah. When does the band of cannibal marauders come and try and destroy our town? Right. So, yeah. So there's a book called 1 Second After.
Yeah, which this was a reference to, by the way.
Yeah. And the premise, and I'm not ruining anything, there's 3 books in the series. They're all really good. And definitely start with 1 Second After because it's like the event that leads into everything else. But basically an EMP pops off over North America, knocks out the power and fries all the electronics.
Yep.
Pretty much in the entire, North American continent. So... and then it's just 1 second after. So it basically takes place like right after that happens, and then things unfold from there.
Yeah.
But it's always
what people do, how they respond in this type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, because modern cars wouldn't work. Any air conditioning, any electronics, computers are done, and then it's about like this mountain town down south kind of rebuilding, and then having to like defend themselves and hunt and. If you're in the mountains, there's not a lot of agriculture there, so you don't have a lot of food readily available. And so it's very interesting. But then there's always like a marauding pack of like cannibal rapists that always form in those books, and they form like really quickly. You're like, wow, I don't know how long
it would take in real life.
I feel like it would take a little bit longer than like a couple months for them to be like Mad Max train of cannibals. Foraging for gasoline and heads. So
yeah, it's a very compelling book to read and listen to. It's a little bit frightening, and your brother said it's the scariest book ever because it could be real. Like it's so close to reality.
Yeah.
There's very little that's actually far-fetched in that particular book where you're like, huh.
Yeah,
what if the power doesn't come back on?
Well, they pretty much they keep it within the bounds of reality as far as what happens. Like it's none of what happens is like, whoa, it's not like a Marvel superhero movie or something.
It's not like aliens show up and say, we turned your power off.
Yeah. Because if they did, I don't mean to freak anyone out, but if a an enemy wanted to, if they popped off nukes in the lower atmosphere, not like almost in space. I might be getting this wrong a little bit.
Yeah, this was according to the book too.
But this was an actual scenario that our government has researched, and the guy who I forget the dude's name that wrote it, but he's done a lot of security work and has been a privy to a lot of these contingency plans, and if they popped off a couple nukes in the upper atmosphere, you wouldn't get any of the radiation, but you would get the EMP blasts, and that's what knocked everything out.
EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse, for those of you listening who may not know.
Yep. And you would get an EMP in a nuclear blast, but you usually wouldn't worry about it because everything would be decimated by the actual explosion. But if they just did the EMP part in the upper atmosphere, then you wouldn't have any of the negative effects of the destruction. Just
or radiation. It would just be the EMP.
Just EMP.
Which is pretty destructive in the first place.
Right.
But it just doesn't make the Earth unlivable.
It destroys the infrastructure.
Yeah, destroys the infrastructure.
Which, seeing how long our power has been out, and we're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and we're not doing badly. Some people have been out of power from that hurricane in the summer, right? They're still totally toast. You're like, oh my gosh. So we can't complain for 3 days. We can complain, but it's context wise.
We can make negative observations.
It's really not that bad.
We're doing fine.
Yeah.
But I really do hope our power's back on at home.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. What were you trying to say about
I have no idea.
I'm sorry.
I was just talking about those books.
Yeah.
And I also saw Annihilation last night.
Oh my gosh.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, 10:30 at night.
Yeah, you won't
talk about creepy.
Dude, so the Annihilation is directed by the same dude that did Ex Machina.
Oh, that was a creepy movie.
Also a creepy ass movie. And this one was not no robots, but man, it was
don't give anything away.
It was creepy.
People might want to
it's too new of a movie for me to spoil it for anybody. Okay. But it's creepy, and it's not one of those movies that resolves itself. It kind of leaves you with the same feeling of Ex Machina. But then I watched that movie. I didn't tell you this. I rolled into the movie theater last night because we were hanging out at that bar, and then I skedaddled right up the road. And then I pull in, there's no cars in the parking lot. Gosh. And I see a sign on the front door that says no power, we're closed, but all the lights were on. So then I got in my truck and I went over and I was like, hey man, are you guys? And the guy came, he's like, no, we're open.
Oh, well maybe they should take that sign off the door.
Well, he said the power just came back on.
Wow.
And he's like, but it's going to be cold in the theater. I was like, all right. So I went back out to my truck, grabbed my big jacket, and then I waited for my brother.
Wow.
And then I brought one of my blankets in from the one I put down in my seat for Gus. I brought that in with me. So
good plan.
So it was me and my brother in a completely empty theater.
Just the two of you?
I think
oh my gosh.
Out of a 14-theater movie theater, there was maybe 6 people watching movies. There was more staff than people watching movies. So Josh and I were like, screw it, let's do it.
Wow, they definitely lost money that day. You guys did it on Movie Pass. They made nothing.
So yeah, but it was just the two of us. Dude, Josh and I were freaking out. We're just like, because you can be loud. There's no one in there.
No one else. Just the two of you in that movie theater.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. So that was...
How creepy is that? What if someone just jumped in and started...
I would be freaking out. Yeah, they had some moments where I was like, ah! And then I had to go back to our house.
Yeah.
To grab some stuff like toothbrushes and whatnot because the power had not come back on. So you had already gone back to Josh and Sarah's. And then I was in the house with my little phone light going through, and I was just like, dude, this is creepy. I just threw a bunch of stuff in a laundry hamper and took off. I was like, get out of here. Bless you.
Sorry, it's the sun right here.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's creeping up.
Yep. Yeah, it is really creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
I might go see Date Night tonight because it's a comedy.
Good idea.
Little palate cleanser. Yeah, that movie was freaky, and there's a real popular sound effect that a lot of these movies are using right now, and Superman used it. And then the new DC movies use it a lot. And then some of these science fiction movies do it a lot. It's always when there's some sort of laser and an alien involved. It's I'm not going to do it. It's going to sound stupid if I try and emulate it.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's like,
I believe you.
And then it pulses like that.
Oh.
And it's always when there's some sort of laser shooting. But I've just noticed, whoever's mixing that sound's the same dude.
That's funny. I wonder if it is.
But anyway, I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos on sound mixing this week. And Peter McKinnon, who's a photographer I follow on the YouTubes, mixed up his own sound effect pack.
Hey, that's cool.
And he got it mixed and mastered in this guy's baller sound studio. So he actually made the sound effects
Wow.
of so he's a cinematographer, and when he does like pans and stuff, he'll make a sound effect as he does it, like whoosh or something. But then the guy took that and then did this very cool level changing to make
Wow.
it, and like cleaned it up completely. But he had a really cool sound studio that he was doing all
fun.
the mixing in, and then you can actually buy his sound effect pack that are made by Peter McKinnon.
That's
which are-
funny.
it's like one of them's like a helicopter. It's like that kind of stuff where you're like, wow, all right.
That's funny.
But then when you see it in a video, you're like, oh, that sounds really good.
That's great.
But it's interesting to see that like how deep people can go down each respective kind of production rabbit
Yeah.
hole. So
Yeah. I'm going to rewind this a second. Going
Sure.
back to creepiness.
yeah,
With the power being out, the first night it was out on Friday, we still had family dinner. And so I was helping your mom cook the food and chop vegetables. I like chopped a bunch of stuff for the salad. And love your mom. Don't love her knives. She has
my
the
mom
most dull knives.
does not love her knives.
No, I know. It's they're so dull. It's like you're better off using the blunt end of a butter knife.
Yeah.
Really. It's
Well,
the-
she for a while does she still use the glass cutting board? Or-
I don't know. I don't
So-
think so.
Yeah, growing up, it was always a glass cutting board, which is the worst for keeping a knife sharp.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I think we had been married, and I got her.
I
We
think our
got
first year,
we
yeah.
got some very nice knives because you and I we cook quite a bit and dice
you need
things.
good knives.
We keep them very sharp. They're from Global. They're awesome.
Yep.
And I got my wife. Blah, blah, blah. I combined mom and wife, and it's called a knife.
I thought you combined mom and knife.
Either way,
Knife.
yeah. Who knows? I didn't sleep that good this weekend, guys. It's been a long
You
weekend.
got your mom.
I got my mom a paring knife, and from Global, but it was super sharp. And then I was watching
Oh my
her.
goodness.
I was sitting at the
So
counter.
scary.
It was right before family dinner. I was watching her chop something, and she was hacking at it with like a steak knife, and it was like going into her hand and stuff. And she's got really tough hands, so
It
she
wasn't
just
going into your hand. It was because she was trying to cut a butternut squash or some kind of squash in half, and you're like, good God, if that slips, you're just gonna stab yourself in the stomach.
I was like, oh, if I give her that knife, she's gonna kill herself. Like
Or
she's
cut a
gonna
finger off.
chop a thumb off or something. So
Yeah.
I was like, and then we just took that back to the store,
Yeah,
and I
you
think
got something different.
I got her a Dutch oven,
You did.
that year.
That was a better
a
option. I
much
think.
safer
Yep,
option
for sure.
So
For sure. So what I was saying was I was chopping with your mom and
chopping it up.
chopping some knives. Oh my gosh. You're rubbing off on me. Chopping some vegetables with my knife from downstairs from
Uh-huh.
our part of the house. And brought it back down. And I was like holding my little lantern up in front of me and walking through this dark, cold hallway into the kitchen with a knife.
Yeah.
I was like, somebody's going to jump out and try to murder me. Or someone's
Yeah.
going to think I'm trying to murder them.
At least you
walking down a dark hallway with a knife. Like I'm in a horror movie right now. This is what I feel like walking around in this dark basement hallway with a knife.
Ugh, yeah. At least you already prepared. You had the
Yeah,
knife. Now,
right.
did you have the chef's knife or Sentaku or your little one?
Sentaku
Okay.
the first time. And I went down and I got another knife for later and it was my little one.
Gotcha.
But the Sentaku, I was like,
I feel like you could do some damage with that one.
yeah.
It's pretty
Even
well
the little
balanced.
one, man.
Yeah. That's actually I've been thinking a lot about this because I've been reading some books that have like special agents and stuff in them. The one I'm listening to now is called Orphan X by Gregg Hurwitz. He's actually friends with Jordan Peterson.
Interesting.
They reference the 12 Rules for Life. One of the
Cool.
characters puts them on the refrigerator
Oh yeah, I remember
in the
hearing about
book.
that.
It's really good. But I've been enjoying those. But I was thinking, what I really like is like accruing new and fun skills, and I really thought this was a powerful thing that I don't know if he touched on in his book or not, but I think he may have, Jordan Peterson, talking about how the term "the meek shall inherit the earth."
I don't think he talked about
the
that
meek
in
shall inherit the
in
earth.
that book.
Which is from, I think it's in Matthew, in the Bible, New Testament, and that's quoted as like the meek, which is like the weak and the underserved and all this kind of thing, will inherit the earth. But the actual translation is Instead of meek, what it should say is those that have weapons and know how to use them and keep them sheathed will inherit the earth. That's a way different phrase.
Yeah, that's more of an accurate description.
Than meek.
Is like you have a weapon, but you know when to draw it and when to keep it sheathed.
Correct.
So you're not a maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that is very different.
The point is you're very capable
Mm-hmm.
of handling yourself, and you have skills in our, and I've been thinking a lot about that. It makes way more sense because there's no animals in the animal kingdom. We've been watching a ton of nature documentaries. There's no meek animal that like survives. They get jacked and then they die and then they don't procreate and then the strong dude keeps going. So it's like, and then obviously humans are slightly different because we're the apex predators on the planet. And but I think the more, particularly like with martial arts and stuff, the more dangerous you get, the more disciplined you get. So a lot of the most dangerous guys I know are also the safest people to be around.
Right.
And in terms of like, just we'll take like violence, like a potential fight happening. If you have two guys that are completely untrained, and say they were like almost always there's alcohol involved.
Right, drunk bar fight.
Yep. The propensity for violence is way worse when they're untrained versus even if you had just one of them being trained.
Right.
Because like as a person who's done a fair amount of martial arts, like I know what like a violent situation looks like. I'm very comfortable with getting physical, but like I've never been in a street fight.
But not in a violent perspective.
No, but like you're less intimidated by the like someone touching you or the potential for violence because you know how to control it. You're used to it. I get beat up by people that's their job. So it's like it's not like guys get their black belts and then they're just going around beating the shit out of everybody.
Right. So in that regard, when you've got the discipline aspect, you said this a minute ago, that there are some of the, the more dangerous you get, the safer it is to be around. I don't know if that's an accurate way to say that, because it's, if you're in practice like this and you're disciplined and you're not just some crazy person who likes to beat people up, then it's safer.
Right. Well, I mean, so like take someone like George St. Pierre. He's like one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. Super nice guy. Like it's the guys that are insecure that are actually meek. They are dangerous. Like when they're trying to prove something, where like a guy who's very proficient has nothing to prove. He already knows where he stands. There's a lot of self-control and discipline. And then I'm very interested in cultivating like more skills that kind of make you feel like that. Cause for me personally, martial arts have been one of the most empowering things to have. Cause you're just like, if things got physical, which is one of the worst things that can go down, I already know I've made that a comfort zone. But I was thinking about one of the things I want to learn is knife fighting.
Whoa. Okay, bring it around.
Because I was thinking about your knife thing, talking about the Sentaku and stuff. Because there's a couple different. There's like a Screama. There's some stick fighting stuff, and there's a few. They're harder to find, but just like some general disarming things, and then how to use a knife would be kind of cool. I know a little bit, but not too much.
Crazy.
But it'd be fun to have some cash to just like go train. On something like that. Josh and I were talking a little bit about that this week.
That's funny.
So. But anyway, I think we're well over our projected time.
Good. Awesome.
So anything else to add, Sweetness?
I don't think so. I think I'm just, it's nice to have power here and be a little warmer, and probably come back here and do some paperwork in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll go maybe stop by the house again and see if
we've got
power back. Because then if we don't, I'm probably will grab my computer and head back over to my brother's hacienda.
Not a bad plan.
Sweet.
Very kind, letting us hang out at their house.
Yeah. It's like old times.
Yeah.
Because I used to live there, and then Josh was dating Sarah at the time, and I was dating you at the time. Yeah. We'd hang out.
And I was there so often, I practically lived there.
Pretty much. It was fun times all around.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, we will see you in the outro.
Yeah. And that is it for us today, everybody. That is the end of episode 9 of The Painter and the Pixie. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Jeremy and I both hope that you've enjoyed it, that you've learned a little something and kind of had some fun along the way. To find show notes, you can find those on our website, which is www.thepainterandthepixie.com, as well as our YouTube channel, which is The Painter and the Pixie. For updates, for notes, and these things, you can go to follow us on Instagram, which is @ThePainterandThePixie.
Yep, and as always, this episode of the podcast is brought to you in part by Audible. You can go to www.audibletrial.com/The Painter and the Pixie to get your free month of Audible, as well as one audio book credit. And for that credit, I would recommend spending it on 1 Second After by William Forstchen. Anybody who's in the, eastern corridor that got walloped by that the nor'easter that just, came through here and knocked out all the power, you will be able to empathize with this book. It's very good. I would highly recommend it. And so good times all around. Hopefully we will have power next week and be coming to you back from our
studio.
Our normal studio
Not my
setup.
office.
Blue chairs, not orange chairs. And I think, did we hit all the things?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, you said where all the show notes are from. You can also find them on any of the listening platforms that you're listening to: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that jazz.
Yep.
And
and as usual, I'll post an update on our Instagram account when the show notes are actually up and running, so you can go and find them all of the references from the show.
Yep.
I think that's about everything.
Yep, and I'm hoping to have this show up. You won't know because
they'll be listening to it when it's already up now.
You'll hear it when it goes up. But I would love to edit it today, but we'll see what happens.
Get power.
It's all good. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? So yeah, enjoy your power while you have it, folks.
Yeah. Just stay warm.
Yeah.
Enjoy things.
So, all right, guys. Well, we will see you next week. Have a good one. Stay out of trouble. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Amazing.